Okay, good morning, class. Are we sitting comfortably? Welcome to episode 267 of An Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on August 1st, 2018, and featuring School Reunion, written by Toby Whithouse and starring David Tennant as the Doctor, Billy Piper as Rose Tyler, Noel Clark as Mickey Smith. Special host for your evening is myself, Aaron Romeo Moonberg, along with our technical director, Mad Matt Winchell, Tim
I
the
think I
Enchanter
live.
Shirt,
Ew.
Bad.
Thomas Fireheart,
Hey.
and on a very limited speaking role, Randy Ranson McCulloch, who has just had a tooth pulled.
It literally feels like somebody has taken a crowbar and just bashed in the left side of my face.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
that feeling.
Yeah.
Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, is in Bulgaria and is thus unable to attend. He has, however, left us our notes along with any suggestions to the Bulgarian mafia.
Please don't take his pinkies.
On tonight's show, news and birthdays. Then we'll be moving on to the episode summary as well as the episode review, final thoughts, and of course, ratings. All right, so we'll begin our news.
I actually have a brief rant, but it's just brief. To all dentists out there, please, if you're pulling somebody's tooth, let them have the good drugs.
Good day, and thank you.
Don't keep them for yourself.
Yes, please.
Think of the children.
All
right.
All right, moving on to the first segment of our news. We are going to be celebrating some birthdays here. We've got for July 26th, Eve Miles, who played Gwyneth in The Unquiet Dead, and Gwen Cooper in Torchwood. He has turned 40. Nana Visitor, Olivia Colasanto in Torchwood Miracle Day. Kira Nerys in Star Trek Deep Space Nine turned 61. And Bob Baker, writer from 1971 to 1979, co-creator of K9, has also turned 79.
Appropriate birthday for this week.
Mm-hmm. And on July 29th, David Warner, Professor Grisinko in Cold War, Ra's al Ghul in a Batman the Animated Series, or Ra's al Ghul, numerous other roles and such, has turned 77. Who can forget David Warner?
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem
Only
is
the most classic British villain character ever.
Yeah, if we were going to list his geek roles, we would be here all night.
He was also in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze.
Or he played a good scientist.
Mm-hmm. He played a good guy.
Yeah,
not to mention in not one, but 2 Star Trek movies in 2 different roles.
Oh, yeah. Alright, so moving on from birthdays to unfortunate passings. Take it away, Tim.
Alrighty. An Unearthly Podcast is sad to announce the passing of Alan Bennion at the age of 88. Bennion is best known for his role as the Ice Lords in the 3 Ice Warrior stories in the 2nd and 3rd Doctor era. He originally played Slar, the leader of the Ice Warriors, in the 1969 Troughton serial The Seeds of Death. He would next be seen in the 1972 Pertwee serial The Curse of Peladon, playing Islir, the Ice Warrior delegate to Peladon. And his last appearance was in 1974 as the Monster of Peladon as Azaxir, the leader of the Galactic Federation troops. Bennion was also a regular cast on Z-Cars in the same era, making a total of 5 appearances. Others included the Scorpion in Sexton Blake, the Magistrate in Oliver Twist, and Ted Williams in Juliet Bravo. His first acting role came in the 1967 Send Foster episode, The Drama Critic, followed by 3 episodes of Sexton Blake as the Scorpion, and then the documentary Meeting Point the same year. Between 1968 and 1972, he appeared in 6 episodes of Z Cars. He would later appear as Ted Williams in Juliet Bravo. Other TV roles were in Paul Temple, the 1985 version of Oliver Twist, The Troubleshooters, and The Return of Sherlock Holmes with Jeremy Brett and Next of Kin. He was also in a 1971 production of Hamlet with Ian McKellen and Tim Pickett-Smith. So he had a nice career.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of stuff.
Nice and varied.
And he loved playing that Ice Warrior, apparently.
Cool. I have found an version of Macbeth on YouTube starring Ian McKellen. I don't know what year it's from. Alright, but moving on, we have for Series 11, new publicity photos have been released. The BBC released another publicity photo this week, and it's another shot of Jodie Whittaker in her outfit. Haven't we seen this before? Alright, let's move on to discuss this, but she seems to be in a more natural environment. It looks like it's kind of actually a rocky kind of desert environment.
Yeah.
On top of the world, quote unquote.
I don't think so. I think that's possibly grape farms.
Grape farms? Okay.
Yeah, look down below that. You'll
Yeah.
notice everything's in a row.
Is that? Do you think maybe it's South Africa?
Possibly.
Might be South Africa. Might be. It's definitely a very humid or a very warm climate that she's in. But it's not exactly desert per se.
Yeah, it's more temperate.
I just love that her expression is like, "Who the fuck are you?"
Am I really supposed to be standing here? Okay.
We're getting a good view of her shoes, I think.
And she's holding her sonic screwdriver. I wonder, some enterprising individual is probably taking a very close look at the tree she's standing in front of and is like, oh yes, that species is only available in this place. I know where they're filming, or where this picture was taken.
Yeah, I'm not sure where exactly those come from.
We're not botanists.
No.
I took a botany class. College.
Doesn't make you a botanist.
I took a botany class once.
It makes you a little more educated than the rest of us.
I took a botany class once. I got lost into the forest through the trees.
Coniferous. Alright, so that's really all it is. And, you know, of course, she's wearing, it's, of course, the blue jacket. Unlike when we first saw it, and it was kind of brownish, I believe.
That was lighting.
Yeah, it was lighting. It was actually a filter that they had put.
Yeah.
It's like that picture of the dress, where everyone couldn't tell if it was black or white.
Yeah.
Well, they stopped tinting it, we know.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways, are we ready to move along?
Yep, moving on, we've got Chibnall was asked by Digital Spy magazine why so many companions, and he went ahead and explained why he decided to do it that way. His statement is, I love Doctor Who is a big, popular, mainstream, accessible show. So I wanted to make sure that every member of the audience felt they had a relatable character and access point. Hopefully it means that the show can resonate with the broadest possible audience. And of course, 3 companions with the Doctor, we're really going back to 1963, and that's the format of the show. We're not changing the format, that's how it started, really. Which I only realized afterwards. As a side note, Chibnall dislikes the term companions and describes Yaz, Ryan, and Graham as the Doctor's new friends, quote unquote. He says calling them friends is a bit more natural, but is in no way a rule or edict from now on.
Like,
I don't know. I don't really see them, you know, friends of the Doctor include people who have not traveled with him on the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Companions is technically a closer knit group.
Doctor Who and his amazing friends.
Not to mention his relationship with each companion is a little different. He's friends with some, mentors to others, and some are kind of romantic.
Yeah, I don't know. He's just kind of being his own head space right now. Anyway, are we ready to move along?
Moving on. Yep. Okay, so some news for the alumni cast and crew. The London Comic-Con was this past weekend, and all the former Doctors, save Sylvester McCoy, were in attendance. No real news other than the fact that the Ninth Doctor, Christopher Eccleston, was welcomed to the convention circuit with open arms by his fellow alumni. Eccleston is shown here in an arm lock with the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith, and he also received a hug from the 12th Doctor, Peter Capaldi.
Aw.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. At first I couldn't tell who that was. I'm like, who's that old dude? And then I realized,
That's Christopher Eccleston. Oh my God, he dyed his hair again.
Yeah, he's got lighter colored hair. So, well, that's pretty cool. He's kind of embracing things a little bit more. I think
since he let things air out a bit, he's finally okay with starting to come back.
Hopefully we'll see him in Big Finish soon.
Cross our fingers.
Looking forward to that day.
That's the next big step. The one after that might be, cameo in a multi-Doctor story. You never know. Okay. All right, coming.
Needs his due.
Yeah. All right, coming up next, the showrunner, Chris Chibnall, is scheduled to be at the first ever CBBC Summer Special, a festival for the family in Liverpool this weekend. For the family, for families.
Summer social.
Not just Chris Chibnall's family is the only person are the only people allowed to attend. Only Chris Chibnall's family. Just kidding. So, but for families in Liverpool this weekend, the social is a cooperative effort between the BBC and the city of Liverpool, promoting the full lineup of BBC's children's programming, and celebrating 10 years since Liverpool was declared a European Capital of Culture. Chibnall will be on the main stage at Croxteth Country Park on Sunday for a Q&A session hosted by Chris Johnson. Tickets are £28 per day, and you can go to the bbc.co.uk/cbbc for more information.
Sorry, this next article is supposed to be Tim. Sorry, I did write half of this while holding an ice pack to my face, so...
I was gonna say, well, you didn't write it when you were high on Vicodin, at least.
No.
Also missing a link, though, too.
So, that brings us to...
but I think I found it, so I'm good.
Big Finish. The Big Finish!
Take it away, Tim!
Oh, no. ST, The Darkened Earth. This month's Short Trip is out. This time narrated by Miranda Raisin as Constance Clark. In this story, Constance is in danger of being fed by the locals to a nasty creature described as darker than dark. Short Trips, The Darkened Earth is available for the Big Finish website for $2.99 download only.
$2.99.
Dun, dun, dun. Sounds pretty cool.
The question is, how much blacker can these monsters get? And the answer is none. None blacker.
Than black? That's actually a quote for that anime that came out. Darker than black. Are the Grim Reaper's dreams darker than black?
The
answer is none. They can get none darker.
That's an unfair stereotype. What if the Grim Reaper wants to dream in rainbow technicolor?
No, that's true. You know, he does have a horse named Binky. Yep. All right. Rand, we don't have a rant from Rand.
I gave it earlier.
We got the minor 5-second one, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Give me pain pills. That's all I have to say.
Who wants to do the episode summary?
And we have no extra sci-fi stuff, I assume, right now.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's
It's only
No.
10:24. We must
Aaron
think
and
of
I
something.
just got Amazon Prime back. We might have something next week because there's a couple of shows I want to watch. But
Yeah, and our Netflix is going away tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think it ends.
Oh,
we'll get it back in September. Just cutting it for the con.
hooray!
All right. So yeah, who's ready to speak up about this episode today?
I was going to, but now I'm not.
Funny how that works.
I didn't do last week's, did I? Or I did the week before though.
I think Bill did last week.
Yeah, I think Bill did last week, and I did the week before. And actually, as a matter of fact, yeah, Bill did last week's because he knew he was going to be gone today. So
Yeah.
so it's down to Tim and Thomas.
Wow. Okay. Well, if Thomas doesn't want to go, I'll go. All right.
He didn't say yes, so go ahead, Tim.
Okay, so Mickey, tells the Doctor and Rose that there are UFOs in the sky, and the kids at school are getting smart, and something weird is going on. So the Doctor becomes a teacher poses a teacher to investigate, and Rose poses as a cafeteria lady to help him out. And they discover the school is being run by Rupert Giles, who is the leader of a bunch of bat people who have stolen the plot from an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Involving brain-altering French fries. But the Doctor saves the day. Oh, and also along the way, he runs into some old companion. But companion and her middle dog.
Is that it?
Doug. The end.
Oh my god.
Wow.
That was super short.
That's all Tim wants to get away on that plot. So that was 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Hi, folks. We're barely half an hour into this.
Okay, the Doctor is reunited with everyone's favorite companion from the classic Who series, Sarah Jane Smith. I know I was being glib, but the 10th Doctor meets Sarah Jane, who, like old times, is investigating the appearances of the UFOs and the strange goings-on in the new school, and they discover that the school has been invaded by aliens called Krillitanes. Who, their thing is they invade different worlds and planets, and they adopt not just the culture of the worlds they invade, but also the physical attributes of the planet's inhabitants. And the Doctor finds out that the Krillitanes are making the children smarter so that they can solve the mystery of the universe. Or it's like sort of the theory of everything. They can unlock the secrets of time and space and matter and everything and control everything. And generally, that would be bad. So the Doctor figures out that since the Krillitanes keep changing their physiology, they've literally become allergic to even themselves, and the Doctor uses this against them with the help of his trusty companion K9, who also returns along with Sarah Jane Smith to just defeat the Krillitanes and save the world. And Mickey comes to the realization that he doesn't want to stay behind this time, and he wants to come with Rose and the Doctor, and off they go, leaving behind Sarah Jane Smith after a tearful farewell. Well, but at least this time Sarah Jane Smith has a bit more closure to her encounter with the Doctor this time. So I hope that was a bit more
expanded upon.
Expanded upon.
Well, explained, yes. There, we're at 3 minutes 44 seconds.
I like the director's cut better.
That was barely half the episode.
All right, so
It's like,
moving on.
in this episode, the Doctor does something.
Well, you missed the part where the Doctor and the headmaster bond over the fact that they both had mothers named Martha.
Jeez. All right, so.
Why do you say Martha?
What do you mean, Martha?
Sorry, it's a nervous habit I have. I have to say Martha every 5 minutes. Like, Martha! Okay.
Okay. So let's continue on with our thoughts. Let's begin first with what we liked overall for the episode. Let's start out with Bill, because otherwise I'll probably totally forget his thoughts on it. And I'll just keep going down the line. All right, so his comments were that good aspect, the interactions between new and old characters, from Rose and Sarah Jane to Mickey and K9. There's a lot to love here. So, any thoughts on that?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That's pretty much what. I
There's
see
good
that
chemistry with old and new here.
All right, I'll continue on with Matt here, and then I'll finish this up. So, Matt, what was your?
So my favorite thing overall, I love that they decided that they needed to. They decided that on a good plot to bring back classic characters, and not just for the sake of bringing back classic characters, but because it kind of works. It's a well thought through plan. They're not just doing it for lulz. Here's something classic that the hardcore ones are going to remember. Haha, bye.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually something that works out well, and it was thought through all the way.
Well, it's actually kind of like Tim said. I'm pretty sure the writer was like, I really hated how the Doctor ended things with Sarah Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bring her back for an episode so you can have the proper closure.
Mm.
And then wrote an episode around that.
Okay. So, is that everything, Matt?
That's a basic, really good one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Ren.
All right. So what I liked most, Sarah Jane Smith. I have to just say it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She came in from moment one she's on screen, not missing a beat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She comes in, she's Sarah Jane Smith, and you know it. You're just like, oh yes.
Mm.
It was beautiful. It was wonderful. I loved every moment of her on screen. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, and it's kind of telling how much they must have enjoyed her coming back to it, because from what I've read, pretty much as soon as they ended production on this episode is when they offered her Sarah Jane Adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, they watched this and realized, hey, she can still do this role. There's no reason for her to stop.
I also saw a little bit of behind the scenes thing, and she commented that while on the set and talking to behind the scenes cameras that it already felt like she was back to where she used to be. And her first scene was literally her and Tennant running from that door when they locked it near the end of the episode.
Yeah.
And she's already like, wow, this takes me back. The crew's a bit further back, and the cameras and the boom mics are a bit better. But the rest still feels the same.
Jeez, it feels like she really kind of missed it. Like, honestly missed it.
Yeah.
So, all right, Thomas.
Well, she'd been doing the character in Big Finish for a while.
Yeah.
Thomas?
Okay.
I am honestly going to say Anthony Stewart Head as Mr. Finch.
That was my number 2.
Yeah, because, like, it's like, you know, I'm so used to seeing him as Giles, and then seeing him in this, and he's just going for it, like, he doesn't care. And
I'm trying
it's
to
like,
find a picture of him right now.
He just really goes for it.
Yeah,
And it's just so fun.
He's really into the role. His reactions, even just him standing creepily at the top of the tower as he calls back the monster to him. He's like, "Come back, come to me."
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, that's actually kind of creepy and really kind of reminiscent of Dracula right there. You know?
I also noticed some of his what you call mannerisms, in particular, like when he's one-on-one talking to the doctor and they throw everything out the window and they're just talking straight up doctor and alien. The way he's reacting to how the doctor is acting, and he's just like, "Oh, you're something new," and slowly you just see his head tilt as he seems to be looking at him even closer.
Yeah.
Like
some of those little subtle mannerisms actually do remind me of when I was checking out body posture and stuff for Michael Myers for the first Halloween movie. Just this kind of like vulture eyeing up a piece of meat ready for the kill kind of deal.
Yeah, like in a way that's kind of like the best way to sum up his performance is that he can go from being really subtle to just really hammy.
It's not like it's a bad kind of hammy. It's the kind of hammy you need for a monstrous villain like him.
Yeah.
It's a controlled ham. By the way, he's now this year he voice acted for Alfred for a Batman cartoon.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Tony Head's an amazing actor.
Okay. So, Tim, what did you think? What was your favorite?
My favorite aspect overall was the way the Doctor was sort of guided by his companions into facing some of his own personal issues that he was either in denial about or didn't want to talk about it. About the curse of the Time Lords, he said, and
the whole Mayfly aspect, as Lady Me would put it later on in the series. Playing with the Mayflies.
Okay.
Okay. Well, is that all, Tim?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead, and I have a little bit of something to add first to Bill's his reaction to, or his good aspect. I enjoyed how the relationships between the characters evolved over the course of the episode as well. Like Rose and Sarah Jane go from having a very antagonistic relationship to, being almost best buds, to the point where I think Rose actually tries to pressure the Doctor into letting Sarah Jane join them on the TARDIS on adventures and stuff. Mickey kind of realizes that, neither he nor K9 are useless, techies, left to watch over and stand guard while the heroes go off and fight the bad guys. They can actually have an active participatory role in the story. So Yeah, I thought that those changes over the course of the episode were really, really nicely done. So, and my overall favorite thing was the comedy. Like, when you first see Rose in the lunch lady outfit, I'm like, oh yeah! Some comeuppance. That's how it goes.
Hooray.
Is this before or after Father's Day?
After.
This is after. Father's Day was season 1. This is season 2.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. I was gonna say this would be kind of an interesting punishment for her, kind of twisting around time in Father's Day, but no, it's just an
It would be a little bit late for
operation.
reprimand, but this is
Yeah.
not uncommon in New Who for his companions to accidentally have to land jobs while they support the Doctor while he's trying to figure out something.
Yeah.
I believe Martha was particularly pissed at one point, but yeah.
And yeah, so there's that, and there's the lunch lady exploding or getting goo spilt on her,
and
her
freaking out and
boss
then
pokes
exploding
her
behind
head
a
around
wall.
the
Yeah.
corner. She's like, yeah, she does that. It's just like, wait a second.
Does that too. Closes the door. And Rose is just like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's the humor was very enjoyable, and it seemed well timed, well paced. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the aspects that the overall aspects that we didn't like. And Bill says the only nitpick I've been able to come up with is that I wish there were more about the Krillitanes. I much prefer the classic way the Doctor would learn about the monster of the week through investigation rather than just automatically knowing. Even if he had heard of them before, they're clearly nothing like the race he already knows. Unfortunately, that probably would have needed this to be a two-parter. Yeah, I kind of agree, because then if it's a two-parter, then you're in danger of drawing it out too much. And part of the good part of this episode is that it's so tightly written. So, and they're probably banking a bit on bringing back all these people, and it can't be that cheap to have some of these classic characters show up, or the man who played Giles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm sure that his paycheck was rather hefty, because he's freaking Giles.
I feel like if they'd held off on like him realizing what they were, I actually feel like they could have waited until that. Oh no, wait, that was before anyway. But like the scene to do it in, rather than like, oh, he hears their name. Oh, I know what these are. They could have, I don't know, maybe rearranged some scenes or something, and it's like you only see the bat sort of gargoyle form, whatever, and that's what makes him go, ah, that's where I've heard of these before, or something like that. Because I think the funny thing is, I think we've covered a few where in like of the classic stories lately where he's like, God, that sounds really familiar. There's something about this. I don't know what. And then like eventually, like just through natural progression of the story, it kind of reveals, oh yeah, this is what.
Like maybe if Rose had managed to get a piece of the woman, like maybe there was only goo left of her, so she like manages to get some of the goo together, and the Doctor analyzes it, and he's like, oh, I know what this DNA like stuff material is. It's the Krillitanes. At least there's that. Like literal like CSI investigation type deal. All right, so Matt, what was the part that or the pieces that you didn't think worked?
Well, I'm 50-50 with what Bill said. My problem is the Krilltane, but it's not so much their background, because if they're interesting enough, there's always chances to bring them back and further develop them. My problem was that the effects for them just came off as so starkingly bad.
Yeah, the CGI
I can only
was
think of like
pretty
2 or 3
dodgy.
scenes where the CGI worked well, and this is the same season that gave us the really good werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what the hell happened, but wow,
This is
did the
episode
krill tank just
after.
fall apart?
Because they spent all the money on the werewolf and then had to deal with a lower budget in the next production block.
Maybe, but
Yeah.
like I remember like the backgrounds and stuff they're animated through were like out of focus and stuff. It's just like you guys really
Yeah.
didn't pay attention to what you were doing with this episode, did you?
The matting, it reminded me of bad blue screen mat.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It's the kind of stuff even I could do if with enough time and given a animation program again.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like then of course the funny thing is, like with all like iffy CGI in New Who, the easy fix is you don't have to show it as much.
Mm-hmm.
Sure,
Like, you just-
planned
like-
around planned out a thing that helped like darken the hallways or something again, and you could have hidden a lot of those issues pretty easily.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
in a
like-
darkened school like that. That would have been
In a dark
super
school is
fun.
horrifying.
Yeah.
They even have it in the middle of the episode.
Yeah, there's like that scene where the kid walks in and like you only see you only sort of see it because it's under a table.
Yeah, you only kind of start to see it, and then all of a sudden it pops up and it's an adult, and it's like, holy hell! And that was effective.
Well,
And then they just showed it in daylight, and it's just like, oh.
You could have really played with that. You could have gone total the thing with that.
Just
where
about, yeah.
It's a slightly different monster every time you get like a glimpse of it. Like at first it has bat wings, and then maybe you see like its legs under the table, and it's got like maybe I don't know like hooves or something like that, like Jersey Devil.
Well, I was kind of thinking more along the lines of like maybe raptor claws, just that little
Or
tapping
raptor
toe as
claws.
it walks. Yeah, just kind of.
And then like every time you kind of get a glimpse of it, it's like a slightly different thing, and it's just like, wait, is this all the same thing? Because they're supposed to be,
They're supposed to like take DNA from
absorbing
from the plants they take over and slowly evolve. Yeah,
that means that they would be absorbing aspects of animals too.
which they obviously have with the bat
Yeah,
wings and
they
everything.
already
But then they
have.
would also be exploiting more human stuff too. Like they start getting bigger
Mm-hmm.
for one.
Yeah,
And a
they
few other
certainly were
things.
eating the humans, so.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So yeah, there's better ways they could have gone about showing them, and they just kind of threw it out the window in the last act.
Yeah. All right, Rand. What was your least favorite aspect?
The fact that they wasted the star power of Anthony Head on a one-off character.
Oh.
They never did bring him back. Yeah.
No. I mean,
As
look
far
at
as we
his
can expect
performance.
that he must have died in that explosion, but yeah.
Look at his performance and tell me he couldn't have played the Master.
Oh.
No.
Oh yeah, that could have been pretty sweet.
Damn.
I would have loved that.
Well, I mean,
Or he could have just come back as the Krypton
actors
again
have
and
come
just
back in
kept
different
going.
roles before, so.
But he, like I was saying though, he could also come back as the Krypton, and because they obviously have this idea and it's a really good idea, it's just that the Doctor got involved. And if they tried to be more incognito with it, they could do a similar ploy again or something else still like.
I think that's the reason why we don't see the Krillitane trying to invade. At least trying to do another invasion is because they know the Doctor's around, quote unquote, protecting the Earth, and that's what's keeping them and I can't remember the aliens from the Christmas episode, kind of keeping them all away. The knowledge that he's kind of protecting the Earth, but but Matt's right in the other aspect in that they could have brought them back for like another reason, for like another planet or something like that.
Because obviously they're not just dumb one-noted monsters either. Because Anthony Head's particular character shows that he has a lot of depth.
It would be interesting to see them in like a multi-species story, like what was it, End of the World? I'm spacing on a lot of this stuff.
I think End of the World was a
the one
Dalek
with the
episode.
dream
You're
people
talking
and
about
stuff.
the Pandora opens and such?
No, the one like the second Ninth Doctor episode. where they're on the space station watching the Earth become incinerated by the sun.
End of the
And
Earth?
End of the world.
Yeah.
End of the world.
End of the world, yeah.
End of the world, where you've got all these delegations of different species and stuff.
Well,
in
the
one
main
area.
reason it's that they're not going to be there is they didn't think of them at the time, so...
Well, yeah, but they could be in, like, a later episode. That would be kind of cool. And, like, see how other species react to them, see how conquered species react to them being in that situation, or newly freed. Anyway, yeah, it could be expanded upon greatly. Ryan, what did you have to think?
Well, that was...
Oh, yeah,
that
he
was
already
his.
went. Okay. All right. Thomas, what do you have to say?
I'm just gonna go with Rose.
Because,
like,
nothing thrills
this is
you.
one of those. There's one of those. Just like there's multiple moments where I'm like, oh fuck off.
Yeah.
Which like it's not even. It's not Billie Piper's fault at all. It's just what she was given. But it's like, oh my god.
I'll admit I was actually kind of disappointed when I saw Rose and Sarah Jane start getting along.
Well, that's the funny thing. I kind of liked that, but it was just the fact that they start off like kind of Mickey's line sums it up perfectly of like the whole the Misses and the X thing.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
just like, why? Like I hate the romantic shit as is, but just because of the way it's done and all that, where it just kind of overwhelms everything else.
Just hated them getting catty, huh?
Yeah. Like you can have them butt heads without it necessarily being like, oh well, I love the Doctor more than you do kind of shit. And it's just like,
yeah, it does come off as kind of sexist actually. Like you've got two women fighting over a dude.
Yeah.
Basically.
Bechdel test failure.
Yeah.
I've always
Tim says it. Tim wins that.
I've always said the Bechdel test can't really apply to Doctor Who until this season, because at this point up to the show, the Doctor's always been A, the main character, and B, a male. So usually they're talking, if there's two women, they're probably going to be discussing the main character.
Well,
the Doctor said the main character.
Not necessarily, though. You can't have two female side characters discussing something other than the main male character. And that just kind of proves the whole Bechdel point test. The whole test point. You know, is taking a large amount of information and kind of siphoning through it pretty quickly.
Now, no, the question that comes up this season, this upcoming Series 11, is A, let's see how many these episodes pass the Bechdel test, and B, let's see how many scenes there are which would pass the Bechdel test backwards.
So, two men meet and discuss something other than a woman?
Correct.
Not really something that, you know, that's really been an issue. I mean, men are allowed to discuss stuff other than women all the time, but usually the whole point of the test is that it's believed that a lot of female characters are forced to talk about men all the time. That's why they
yes,
come up with
I know.
Test.
But like I said, now that a female is the main character, I want to see how many times that the reverse winds up failing as well.
We'll see, but like I said, I don't know.
Sociological observations in Doctor Who. Really stuff.
Riveting.
Stop calling everything riveting.
I forgot what I was going to say. But anyway, Tim.
Anyway, yes, well,
really lay into them.
So Thomas sort of took mine with Billy, with Rose. I just thought Rose was kind of needy in this episode.
Yeah.
And
she was super needy because I think she realized what her future might look like.
And
yeah, this was the episode where I started actively disliking Rose. I think her sullen reaction to Mickey joining the TARDIS crew was, I think, the point that I'm just like, oh, please.
Rose is not my favorite as companion at all, but, you know, I think I didn't mind her in this, because I think she does start thinking a little bit more heavily about her interactions with the Doctor and the plausibility of actually ever being with him as a romantic couple, which unfortunately overwhelms a lot of the storylines, like Thomas says, which it really shouldn't be doing that. That's not what Doctor Who's about. Or shouldn't, I don't think it should be about that anyway.
Yeah. They just keep delving into it, and it's just like, hello, hand, meet face.
Yeah, so.
And grown into it.
Well, Matt kind of took mine with the CGI with the monsters, and we've already discussed at length how that could have been fixed and improved upon.
There's lots of old horror movie cliches you could have used, and they would have worked 10 times better.
Oh, yeah. Yep, definitely. All right, let's move on to our favorite scene. We're going to go right to Bill Sylvia's. Let's see here. His best scene was the Doctor and Sarah Jane's real meeting, the one that takes place at night. There is some awkwardness here that others are quick to bring up, considering she doesn't know about the Time War. Everyone, God damn it. My screen just went dark. There we go. The Time War, everyone. Sorry, my screen, if I don't move my mouse often enough.
Oh, screensaver.
Yeah, screensaver mode, so. Everyone died is a bit off, but there's still a level of gravitas to the scene that just makes it right. Yep. So, I do kind of agree. I wish that he had expanded upon the whole everyone died and...
Yeah, because he never does in, like, the entire episode.
Yeah, does he, like, ever mention... Does he even mention... He said there was a war, but does he mention a time war? It's like,
he doesn't directly mention time war to her, no.
No. He, like, I think the only...
says everyone died.
Yeah, like, the only person that brings up that he's the last of the Time Lords in this episode is the villain.
Yeah.
You are most likely one of the last of them.
Yeah, I wish that they had expanded upon that and just... Because, I don't know, if I were Sarah Jane, I would have been like, what do you mean? Because she's curious. She's a former reporter. She's an investigator. She's going to sit there and try to dig. She's going to be like, well, what do you mean? And I think she does actually ask him that, doesn't she? And he just kind of repeats it, everyone died.
I think at the moment, though, she's a bit gobsmacked by running into him again.
Well, yeah. But maybe they could have addressed it in a later scene then, because...
Still, yeah. It's still a slightly clunky moment, yeah. But for the overall part, it's really good, yeah.
All right, Matt, what was your favorite scene?
Oh, gosh. I had to re-see this scene because I was also making the opening video for today. Oh my god, the waterworks would not stop at the goodbye to Sarah Jane. I don't know what it is, but ever since I watched Knight Riders last week, it's just been a feels moment after another feels moment with anything I'm watching lately. And this one especially hits home since so many of us have been watching Doctor Who for quite a while now.
Yeah. And yeah, like, it especially holds some weight because at the time, I mean, like, I didn't see this as it was airing. I saw it well after the fact, but as far as we knew, this was the last time she was going to be on Doctor Who. Obviously, it wasn't the case, but, you know.
Yeah.
We didn't know for sure, but then she came back, and then just when we thought we were going to have her back for a nice long time, gone again.
Yeah, it's... And that could be, a reason for this episode in particular being so bittersweet is that, she's not around anymore. And this is kind of a reminder of everything that could have been. So, yeah, I'll go into more of my thoughts of what could have been later, probably in my wrap up. So, but Rand, what was your favorite? Oh wait, that's all for you, right, Matt?
Yep, I'm good.
All right, Rand, what was your favorite scene?
Mine was actually the first one where Sarah Jane met the doctor. Because just you watch Tennant and you watch the doctor and he is absolutely flabbergasted. He's just like, oh my god. He's trying not to blow his cover because he's in a public place. But he's absolutely just like, oh my god, it's her. I remember her. It's been hundreds of years, but I remember her. Oh my god, he's trying not to absolutely freak out. And so he's trying to just take it normally and everything, and she makes the little hint about knowing somebody by that name, and he's trying like, no, can't say anything, no.
Yeah, and it's also one of those scenes where it also does feel like it's not only the Doctor, it's also just David Tennant as like a fan of Doctor Who, just gushing.
He stated it was.
You could see him geeking out.
Just like when he met Peter Davidson.
My doctor with the running shoes.
Yeah, there's the point where he
and the
stops
specs.
talking as the doctor and starts talking as himself. Where he's like, "You are my doctor." It's like, yep.
The smart glasses and the running specs and the Time Lord Cecilia hats.
Yeah, and that was the moment there is that, but it still works, I believe, as the doctor meeting it, and just this whole like, oh my god. Because you've never seen him run into anyone else before like that, other than the Brigadier. So it was just like, it was kind of a massive holy shit moment for him. And I thought it played well, no matter how you looked at it.
Okay. All right, moving on to Thomas. What was your favorite scene?
Well, a lot of mine have been taken. So I'm actually going to go with the moment that I thought is like just generally really funny, but also generally cool, is the moment where K9 blows up the thing, and then Mr. Finch is like, bad dog or something, and he just goes affirmative, and then bam, and it's like
affirmative tail wag.
Because it's just like, it's almost kind of like his friggin' action hero moment, where it's like, rather than his one-liner, it's just saying affirmative. It's kind of a fuck you. It blows up.
Well, with K9, you don't need anything better, more badass than affirmative. He's a male dog. Screw you.
All right, Tim, what was your favorite scene?
Okay, so a lot of the great scenes have been taken, but I do have one I'd like to mention. The one that is a callback to the original series where Sarah Jane chews out the Doctor. You didn't leave me in Croydon, you left me in Aberdeen. Like, and the Doctor's like, oh, well, that's next to Croydon, right?
And you just see her just going, ooh.
Jeez. Some rumbles going on over here. Thunder.
Apparently, there's supposed to be rain in the next 24 hours or so. So, I think there might have been even lightning symbols. So we're not gonna get it yet over here, but we'll get it eventually, I'm sure.
It's supposed to be rainy here in New York.
It's the season, I would assume.
Okay, so that's everybody, and I guess I'm going to go next. I'm going to go ahead and say kind of the part where Mickey kind of really earns his wings, his little I can fly on the TARDIS wings. Basically, he saves the kids by deducing how to turn off the computers and detach them and get them out of there. Which
I
I
must
thought
admit,
was actually pretty smart.
Yeah, like I actually like totally forgot that I was actually almost going to say that just because with all the build up to it, you think he's going to take an axe to the wires or something, and then it's just as simple as him shrugging and yanking the thing out of the wall.
Which is also it's a great like little bit of comedy too. It's just like, well,
Yeah.
let's do this the easy way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, let's
They
just do this the
actually
logical way.
Yeah, and it shows that Mickey is a lot more clever than, certainly Rose takes him for.
And he's
And-
more,
and
and he can be
probably
just
the
as clever as
doctor.
he can be more clever than even he takes himself for sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Let's face
And
it,
I think at this point, I think the doctor is actually starting to see it a little bit too.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, usually the doctor can see right away, a person's, their best qualities.
Mm-hmm. And it took a while, but Mickey finally started to show some of them around this point.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
and also the moment with him and K9 in the car.
Yeah.
That's where he really started to learn his companion credentials. Wait, we're in a car. Affirmative.
So.
Get back!
Yeah.
Smash.
I felt it was really kind of a good thing for him. Kind of a little bit of growth at least. All right, I guess we are on to we're moving along pretty quickly. So if anyone has anything to expand upon, go ahead and speak up here. For now, I guess we'll move on to Bill's thoughts on the worst scene. His is the Doctor and Sarah Jane's first meeting, the good for you, good for you, good for you scene. It's awkward, it's impossible not to read it as fourth wall breaking in a bad way, and so much of it seems to be out of character. I definitely see his fourth wall.
I can see the fourth wall breaking, but I can also see that it's also the Doctor trying to keep his cool around Sarah Jane because he doesn't want to give himself away like right away either.
Well, yeah, he is in the middle of class. He is basically surrounded by enemies. So
technically enemies and people who are unaware of what's all going on, and he can't just start blurting stuff out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do kind of see that, and it's also kind of frustrating because we want them to we want him so badly to just run up and be like, hey, it's me. I know we haven't seen each other in a really long time, but
he wants to run up and give her a hug. He really does.
Yeah.
He does. I mean, I guess that's kind of a good aspect of the scene because it kind of draws the viewer into that kind of that mood, that feeling. But at the same time, it's also very frustrating to sit through that and not be able to see anything come from it, I guess. Other than the fact that he knows that she's around and that he's investigating along with him. All right, Matt, what was your least favorite scene?
Least favorite scene? Gosh, there's so many really good scenes. I'm trying to think of one that really kind of threw me out of it. I'm just trying to think of something that I didn't have like anything that totally threw me out of the episode. But if I was to like nitpick in particular, like there was one scene in particular in the chase scene towards the last act when the Krillin were chasing down the others, where you could like see them running through a hallway, and then you got the same shot, but like the Krillin were doing things that were highly illogical. Like one of them started walking upstairs for no reason. Meanwhile, two of them actually took the main doors that they're supposed to be going through, and I think there was another one like climbing around the corner or something to the other side. It's just like, why? I mean, I understand the animators want to make this look interesting, but why you're doing things that really aren't like helping them chase?
Yeah, I mean, if they wanted to show some of the
to add on to the bad effects, you're also making them do highly illogical things in the middle of a chase sequence. It's like, really?
Yeah, because like the school's on lockdown, so you can't really
They can't
show the
run.
monsters. Well, you can't run, and you can't show the monsters crawling out a window along the surface of the building, the side of the building, which would have been kind of cool.
Yeah,
And
that would have been effective too. Is like you just see one of them just slightly, if it was lit up the way I would have liked to have lit it up, which is at best maybe a mild bit of light outside. You'd just see like a shadowy form creeping along the glass on the outside or something. Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of like a distant shot or something, and you see them running along the hallway, and this shadow kind of slowly comes up upon them on the other side of the glass, and you're just like,
or
oh my
even better
oh my
yet,
God,
as you see them running down the better yet, you see them running down the hallway, and there's like a little bit of like reflection from an inside light or something, and in that light, as they pass by, you suddenly see one of the Krill team kind of creep up, almost like the silhouette from Nosferatu or something.
Oh yeah.
There's so many effective shots they could have done if they just did it at the right time. Just missed. And then they just did really weird things with the animation that doesn't make sense.
I mean, the animation itself just seems kind of really herky-jerky, you know. A little too insect-like, in my opinion. And a little too stilted. They didn't put enough frames of animation in there.
I just think they didn't really mesh with their surroundings is the hugest issue for me.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like they were ever there really the entire time, except for maybe that one time when they impacted a table. And that's just trick photography. Anyone can pull that with strings, you know?
Yeah.
You just pull it with strings and you time it with the camera guy properly, and there you go. That was the only time it looked effective in that sequence. Meh.
All right.
That's my bit.
Rand, what was your least favorite?
I think it was the scene where they go into Finch's office. And they sit there and they talk for like a minute and a half. And then close the door, and then the creature wakes up and yells. It just kind of hit me as a little contrived.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh. Yeah, that was really meh. You think they would have noticed much sooner?
Yeah, I don't know. Looks like Thomas is AFK for a second.
Oh,
yeah,
so
he's
Tim,
muted.
right?
Yep, Tim, what was your least favorite scene?
All right, one scene really just didn't do anything for me was the scene at the very end when the school blows up and the girl says, Kenny, did you have anything to do with this? It's like, hey everyone, Kenny blew up the school, and they all start cheering Kenny. Is like, wait, that would have been a more effective scene if that kid had had a bigger role in the story and we got to know him more, or
yeah,
it's just a random kid, you know, who like.
Well, we see him constantly throughout the episodes.
I mean, we see him, but we don't.
Oh God!
Tim. Oh, he's back. Hello, Tim.
You okay, Tim?
I'm good. Hello.
Yep, we hear you.
All right.
No, yeah, we see him throughout the episode, but they don't really develop anything about him other than that he's kind of the one black sheep of the class.
He is literally a wallflower. He just kind of hangs on the walls of stuff and on poles and stares at the ground and just kind of looks sullen, like.
And it doesn't eat French fries, which is really weird.
Yeah, despite being a fairly
he's not allowed.
Child.
Oh, he's not allowed? Was
wait,
that's something that they covered?
allowed?
I don't recall that.
Yeah. He got he's in the calf, and it's like, why aren't the one of the teachers like, why aren't you eating the chips? And he goes, I'm not allowed. Which means his parents have probably put him on some kind of diet where he can't eat.
Either he's got diet
true.
or he's got an allergen maybe too. It's weird, but it's a distinct possibility.
But that
it's
means
a shame we won't know this because they don't
They
bother
didn't explain
expanding
it,
on
yeah.
his character.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but that leaves you to conjecture that, oh, so he's not getting the krillitane oil because it's in the chips.
Yeah.
So that's why he's the duck of the group.
Even more so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, still, it would have been kind of nice to see a little bit more about him, at least, you know? Learn something. Okay, well, Thomas was AFK, so Thomas, what was your least favorite?
Sorry about that. The phone kept bloody ringing, so I had to go grab it. Mine, and hopefully it wasn't mentioned while I was gone, but mine was Rose's reaction to the Doctor being convinced to let Mickey come along.
Had not been mentioned yet.
Because that was like so fucking annoying. Like, oddly, the weird thing is it's also contradictory because she's like very much. Oh, like earlier in the episode, she's like, "Oh, I thought you were just calling me back to Earth because you wanted to see me or something." And then right at the end, like I never even noticed this until I watched it earlier today, but when Sarah Jane brings it up, she mouths no. Like Rose actually mouths no while like having her head down, or maybe she's looking directly at Sarah Jane, and it's like, and then she's like very dismissive of him, like, yeah, no, it's okay, whatever. And it's like, you fucking bitch. Like, we're supposed to like this person? Like, bloody hell.
Yeah, well, she basically like 2 times about all the time.
Pretty much. It's actually why
she's gonna get better in a couple episodes, but yeah, this one in particular, when it comes to anything with Mickey, it's just like, really?
Yeah. And then when he eventually decides to leave because he realizes how much of a third wheel he is, he's just like, she's like, oh no, but you can't go because we're apparently still technically dating, maybe. And he's just like, yeah, no, fuck off.
Screw that, I'm gonna go save the world in a van.
Well, I'm gonna go check quick on our rain situation here because just got a big gust of wind through the door. Everything looks okay.
Okay.
Nothing has come through the door, at least. All right, so Thomas, that's yours?
Yep.
Okay, definitely agree that Rose is probably a terrible person.
She's got some really bad Pinhead moments in this episode, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I found out something even worse about the Krillteam.
What?
I got a still image here. You can clearly see the door that one of them's climbing over, and there's no reflection of them in the glass on the other side.
Oh my god.
And you can clearly see the door on the other side of the screen. Just,
Use. Post a picture of that.
I will copy this. And I will put it in podcast chat for the rest of you to see. You can zoom it in, and you can clearly see the door, and you can clearly see there's none of the monsters in the reflection on the other side of the screen. Just, that just hammers it home how just hot and fast they were going with the CG that they didn't even think of something that's so obvious on the other side.
There's barely any shadowing for them.
With them, yeah.
Like you'd
even
see...
like the.
Sorry, Thomas. What was that?
Like even like the one that's closer to the floor, there doesn't seem to be any shadowing underneath it.
On the floor underneath them, yeah.
Of it either. I mean, it's got reflection of the light and just about everything else. It would at least have a dark spot on there. And there's no, I don't know about maybe the one flying close to the outer window, if there'd be any kind of reflection in that, or at least some shadows on the window. The shadows actually look kind of off too. The ones that they do have.
Yeah, the one that we can see really clearly near the front, you just see really weird shadows on the ceiling. It's like, why would you even have that?
With the fingers up there, do you see that? Like the
And
fingers.
yeah, the fingers don't
the
really have a
shadows?
shadow around them. Meanwhile, near the wings they do, and it's just like near the chin a little bit as well. It's just like, what kind of shadowing are they doing here?
What are they doing? Why?
Yeah, this just kind of hammers home those effects that just didn't really mesh. Also, that third one in the background looks like an ugly, shadowy blur.
Yeah. I think
Was it
that's
like?
Yeah, sorry, Thomas. What was that?
When it zoomed out, it almost looks like a really weird starfish.
Oh yeah. I think
Firmly
that's supposed
grasp.
to be that gray one is supposed to be the lieutenant, played by that one teacher. Yeah, the other teacher, assistant, headmaster, or something like that. But there's definitely a different Krillitine. There's a
couple different shades of them, yeah, and there's also some slight variations in form, but only slight. But yeah, it's just ugh.
But my point is that one in particular seems to be he's in a few different scenes, but he seems to be a different Krillitine, someone who's like a lieutenant to the leader. And going on to my least favorite scene is the scene of the Krillitine flying against the moon, with the Krillitine never seeming to get any smaller as it flew into the distance. If anything, they seem to pan in on the moon and the Krillitine so they get bigger. And it's just like, this feels weird. Why are you guys doing this? Why aren't you, showing it at least somewhat shrinking into the moon? Usually that's how they look. They fly off into the horizon and they look smaller and smaller and smaller. Or at least you could show it like ducking down past the moon or something, or ducking down into like a series of buildings somewhere.
Yeah, it just looks like it's...
Or the clouds.
Yeah, it even just looks like it's just a random flying animation where it's not even... where he's basically just darting back and forth almost, but never actually going any further away, and then just randomly flies off screen.
Yeah, and it's just like, and it drags on forever too. They're just like, hey, look at this awful CGI. Look at it even more.
Yeah, I think they even technically reused the shot. Like, you see some of it, and then they cut away to, like, the doctor and whoever, and then they cut back to it, and then, like, it flies off and whatever, and so, like, did you really need to show it more than once?
We got how silly the effect was the first time. Thank you.
Well, and the coloring on it too, shouldn't it be much more of a silhouette? Because it's got the moon in the background. I mean, you could see through the wings maybe, but it should be much darker, I feel. I don't know.
At least a little bit. Yeah. Although it is supposed to be a full moon in the background, but
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was an interesting concept that they just kind of messed up.
This is not the Batman you're looking for.
Yeah, I know. This could have been kind of a cool, vampiric, almost vampire-ish thing.
Which they seem to be kind of hinting at here and there, but yeah, then they flubbed it again.
Oh my god, it would have been awesome if they went like with a vampire story on this. I wonder if that's kind of what they were hoping for. They had an actor from Buffy.
Yeah.
Vampires and Doctor Who have a very interesting history.
Yeah, I know about that.
A very interesting mixed history. Some of them have been really good and some of them have been really bad.
Yeah, we've covered the E-Space trilogy, so we have covered...
that was one of the more interesting ones.
Yeah.
By the way, kids, apparently ancient Time Lords had to battle against the intergalactic vampires and had to use stakes so freaking huge you might as well have space ballistas to shoot them.
Yeah. Space ballistas.
Actually, the Time Lords said fuck that and turned their whole ships into giant freaking...
giant stakes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jeez.
The more you know.
Dun, 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 dun.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
All right. We still have some time. It's only 11:24, so anyone have anything else that they want to add before we move on to final thoughts?
Nothing that we haven't beaten into the ground.
I guess I could mention the thing that I was talking about before. Some of the stuff that was teased, such as Sarah Jane joining up with the Doctor on adventures and Mickey joining up with Sarah Jane on adventures. I would have loved to see either of those pan out. I would have loved to see Mickey as, kind of a special, not necessarily a special guest, but like maybe a lieutenant for Sarah Jane on the Sarah Jane adventures. Someone else who could like look after the kids, or maybe the kids wind up looking after him.
To some degree.
On
Well, apparently after he left the TARDIS the last time after coming back from the other dimension, he was supposed to be apparently promoted into a God, my brain just completely farted. Torchwood, yeah.
He was supposed to be part of Torchwood along with Martha Stewart, and that never happened.
Martha Jones.
I was
about to say Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart, that'd be a very different.
That'd be a very special kind of Doctor Who, and I'm not sure what kind.
My Doctor Who. But yeah, and then having Sarah Jane back on the TARDIS, at least, for a couple of stories would have been kind of cool. Although maybe, maybe then they wouldn't have had Mickey on there. Or if they did, they would have been stuck with 3 companions, and I'm not sure if, RTD handled that fairly well when we had Harkness and Rose and Mickey all on the TARDIS too, but that didn't last for super long at all.
That only happened for like literally 1 episode.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of feel like it could have been really.
There's some interesting ideas there, and they just kind of.
But probably they did that in favor because we know that RTD was working on more. Had certain plans for Torchwood for later.
He had plans for Torchwood, and after this, he had major plans for Sarah Jane Adventures, but then he got so busy with balancing all 3 shows that he just had to let 2 of them go and focus on Doctor Who at that point. And then maybe send cliff notes to the other shows, like, hey, if you could tie in this way, I have an idea, basically.
Yeah, I don't even know what he had. Like, Sarah Jane Adventures, I still haven't seen all of that.
I've seen most of it. I haven't seen past much since season 2, though.
But yeah, I don't know. It would have been interesting. All right, so let's head into our final thoughts. I'll give Bill's. He says this is a great episode, and it's really a shame that Liz Sladen wasn't able to appear in any event episodes past this. Of course, this did lead to Sarah Jane Adventures. Even as somebody who had little awareness of classic Who, this episode still impressed on me a love of Sarah Jane and K9 that continues with me to this day. Having become a classic Who fan as well only adds to that.
Bill is in error, by the way.
She appeared for a couple more episodes in regular Who.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Stolen Earth Journey's End.
Yeah.
Fail, Bill. Fail.
The finale for season 4.
I almost do wonder if he meant non-event, considering you could consider the ones that she did appear in event episodes, whereas this was like the only kind of one-off type deal that she did, well, like non-event episode that she appeared in.
Yeah.
We'll have to ask him later if we remember.
Clarify it, Bill. Clarify it.
Clarify your opinions, otherwise it's wrong.
Send a message to Bulgarian Mafia. Tell Bill Sylvia to clarify this.
Clarify, or he loses a pinky.
Not of the poor pinky.
Not by squeezing arm.
Everyone goes for the pinky.
The
There
pinky
are
is
other
seemingly
digits.
useful, but does balance out the hand. You're going to be messed up if you lose your pinkies.
There are other digits, Matt.
All right, we'll cut off his big toes.
There are other digits, Matt.
All right, Matt, what is your final thought?
My final thought.
Just one. You only get one, though.
My only thought. Oh no, must focus now. Overall, oh gosh, I think I saw this just as I was getting into Classic Who at the time. Yeah, it was right after second season came out. I was actually collecting all of Classic Who at the time as much as I could, and trying to plow my way through it. I did not see any Sarah Jane Adventures until I think either just before or just after I saw this episode, but I was instantly impressed by her, and I was instantly impressed by K9, despite the fact that they made him look like a rusting pile of junk. I love the reactions. The characters are done super well. It's just a shame that some of the effects really hold this one back. And even that being said, it's only the monster effects, because we get K9 using his own effects too, as well as running around in circles and shooting stuff up. And he's done really well in this episode. So, I don't know. It's kind of a half and half bag on that one. And it's only a minor tick because they did so well with K9.
Yeah, that could have been the reason why the monster CGI is so off, is because they had to reserve some of that budget for K9.
That's the distinct possibility, because they did have to have at least 2 models of him.
Mm-hmm, yep.
And both of them need to animate at least slightly. And one of them had to walk. Actually, no, both of them had to walk. Yeah, that's right. Even the rusty one had to spin around and shoot. So, yeah, both of them had to be working models.
That's most likely why. Yeah.
That might be why they weren't able to throw the money at the animation budget like they wanted to, and the animation had to just hurry through it as quickly as possible. That probably was the sacrifice, maybe.
Good thing they had fast-moving monsters.
Yeah, otherwise it'd probably look even worse. But overall, aside from the Shinsi monster effects, the main villain of the monsters is extremely effective. All the main characters are really good, and the returning characters just seem to mesh almost naturally with the new characters, which is a really good thing to see.
All right, Ryan, what are your final thoughts?
This is by far one of my favorite episodes of New Who. It's like the Doctor's Wife and this are like my two favorites. And watching it again, I'm still absolutely thrilled with this episode. I love it to death. Even if the CGI is a bit dodgy, I think it's more than made up for by just the star power and acting talent of everybody in the cast. The writing is good. Most of the direction is good, except where the CGI is done.
Yeah, that's not even wholly the director, but that is the animation director's fault.
So yeah, I absolutely love this episode to death. I cannot say otherwise. Next.
Thomas, what are your final thoughts?
This is one of those things where, like, I do really enjoy this episode, but there is so much, like, there's so many elements of it that are, like, you could have either scaled back on, or just generally long-running things that this episode, in a bubble, makes it look worse, but is, like, it's not just a problem with this episode, it's just an RTD thing anyway. Like the whole Rose crap and Mickey looking like a third wheel who's just kind of there. And it's just like that kind of stuff brings it down for me, but that's, you know, the fault of RTD's run in general, not necessarily this episode, but it's just like on full display in this episode. Sarah Jane was great, and I'm glad that I've seen The Hand of Fear before really seeing this properly, because I think before this podcast, I don't know if I'd actually seen this episode the entire way through before. Or like if I had, it would have been like years ago when I would have like marathoned all of New Who, or was trying to watch episodes I hadn't watched or something. Because I feel like it carries more weight. Like, as much as you can emotionally invest in this without it, just because Elizabeth Sladen does a great job, I feel like if you've seen enough of her stuff, because I haven't seen a hell of a lot, but I've seen enough that there's still held some emotional weight. Especially because, as I said before, we didn't know if she was ever going to do anything Doctor Who again, let alone that the Sarah Jane adventures would happen. But yeah, like the CG is a bit wonky and this, that, whatever. But as Matt said, the main villain's still great. Elizabeth Sladen's great. Rose can be tolerable, even though I kind of hate the whole stick that they have with her. Mickey does get some moments, thankfully. K9 gets one of the best moments in the episode. And yeah, like, there's stuff that would bring this, like, there's stuff that's going to bring the overall score down for me, but it's not going to be like, but this is still, like, definitely a good episode.
Cool. All right. So Tim, what were your final thoughts?
I thought this was a great introduction for me, and anyone else in my situation, to the history of Doctor Who as well, and the characters Sarah Jane Smith and K9. In that, when I first saw this episode, it was the first time I met these characters, because I knew next to nothing about the classic series. The performances of David Tennant and Sarah Jane Smith and Anthony Stewart Head were all top notch. The monsters, the Krillchains, were, I thought, it was a unique take on something that like the monsters with the gimmick, like their gimmick, I thought was really cool, and I'm hoping that we'll see the Krillchains again sometime in the future. Future, just so we can expand on that, like we've expanded on with the Silence and the Weeping Angels.
Hopefully not like how they expanded, though, because
yeah,
oh boy.
Yeah, or not, I mean, not like they expanded, but
do a good expansion, yes.
Yeah, yeah. It would be interesting to see, like, if when the Krillchains are reporting, like, how they've changed this again, you know. But I thought this was a really cool episode, and I really loved K9. So that's basically all I have to say.
Okay. Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode too, especially I've seen it. This is about like the third, maybe fourth time that I've seen this episode. I most of the time I usually just catch snippets of it though, so it was nice to really sit down and take a real close look at it. I think Rose gets put in her place a little bit, or people attempt to put her in her place. And I think witnessing what could happen, like Matt said, witnessing her future as a lonely woman wandering the world seeking out the same adventure that the Doctor always gave her. I think that's actually kind of scared her a bit and shaken up her character. So it'll be interesting. If I ever get a chance, I'll probably watch through the series again and see how much this episode has an effect on her character. So that'll be pretty sweet. But yeah, and of course I love seeing Sarah Jane return along with K9. In fact, I was actually happier to see K9 even than I was to see Liz Sladen because I honestly didn't think they were ever going to have him back. And growing up watching Doctor Who on PBS, renting the VHS tapes from the library, yeah, K9 for me as a kid was a big thing. That was like the thing for Doctor Who for me because we watched like old Tom Baker serials all the time.
I think everyone's thinking it. I'm just going to say it. K9 is best boy.
Yeah. K9 is best boy. And I think I really kind of appreciate the story a little bit more here, too. So, again, the special effects aren't the greatest, but I think overall...
Yeah, overall, I think a lot of it makes up for that.
Yeah, I think the sacrifice for having a couple of real working K9 units, I think that's well worth it, in my opinion. They could have been done better still, though. I don't know. But yeah, I highly recommend this episode.
So I guess it's time to ratings.
We're moving on to ratings. Rand, are you recording the ratings?
Mm-hmm.
All right, good. All right, Matt. So what is your rating?
Bill's first.
Bill's first,
Bill's
actually.
first. Yeah, that's right. So Bill writes, I thought something would lower this, but upon analysis, it's coming out to a 5 for him. For me.
All right.
I'm kind of in that same boat, although I was hoping nothing would lower it, and while the CG is something to nitpick, the rest of it is just so damn good that there's no way I can give this any lower than a 5. It's at least a 4.75 to 4.80 for me, so it obviously gets pushed up to 5.
Mm-hmm. All right, Rand?
I'm with Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, Thomas?
I feel like I'm probably going to end up being one of the odd ones out.
Oh.
But
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, like I'm not keeping the trend going because just there's enough that bugs me about this episode that I would have to. Of course, that's just it. I'm trying to figure out whether I would give it a 4 or a 4.5, but I'd say there's enough to justify not dropping it a full point from a 5 to a 4, so I'll go with a 4.5.
Okay.
All right, Tim?
Oh, gee. Huh.
Tim's going to give it a 2.
Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't time lashed, so 0 stars.
I was about to say, it's not time lashed, so it automatically fails.
But,
Tim wants to die, folks.
No. I kid. I will go with Matt, Randy, and Bill and give this 5 stars. Because it is a good episode, and I'm Tim.
Tim, the 5-star man.
All right, so I guess I'm the last one, and I have to side with Thomas that it just can't quite get up to 5 for me, so I'm going to do 4.5.
You both are dicks. Complete dicks.
You son of a bitch! I can't believe you did this!
It was so close to perfect, you assholes.
I hate you both. You can die in a fire now. You
blame RTD.
Blame RTD. Blame RTD. If you didn't write the main character sloppy, this could have been higher.
Well, for me, it's it is the CGI, but it's also
There's
I
less.
don't know.
I know there's
The
a lot of stuff
writing
for
is
Rose, and I
maybe
know some people will throw a lot of what she does heavier at the screen than what I do. So
I think maybe the writing for me was possibly a little too tight to the point where, like, for example, details about the kid and everything we could have expanded upon, but that they weren't.
That was the point of the kid. He was just a nobody.
anyways, are we ready?
I'm having trouble. Just give me a moment.
Okay.
There we go. For whatever reason,
Man's having performance issues.
It wouldn't let me highlight multiple cells.
Oh
okay.
my.
Well, you
All
know,
right,
they have pills for that.
Yes. Unfortunately, no Vicodin for you, hun.
That's not what I meant. They have little blue pills for that.
Yeah, Vicodin.
Oh yeah, those are blue too, aren't they? Mm.
And roughly the same shape, I believe.
So, with everything,
all right.
School Reunion comes out to number 14
Ah.
of 256 reviewed. It is on par with The Armageddon Factor, Dark Water, Death in Heaven, Time Heist, The Empty Child, Dr. Dances, Genesis of the Daleks, Dalek. It is better than The Green Death, The Stolen Earth, Journey's End, Day of the Doctor, and is not quite as good as Unearthly Child without the Tribe of Gum and The Pirate Planet. So there you go, a high scorer, 14 out of 2.
Did I lose Discord?
Goodbyes to Mickey and Rose. So I guess it's time to say hello again to a new companion. It's Martha Jones's first story with the Doctor in Smith and Jones, written by Russell T. Davies and starring David Tennant as the Doctor, and introducing Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones. Tune
Not
in,
Stewart.
see us later.
Not Stewart.
Not Stewart.
Yes. Martha Jones.
She's not gonna make a reef for you.
I didn't say Martha Stewart, did I?
This time.
You did it this.
You didn't this time. Anyways, so I guess I'm going to do closing here. So, thank you all for joining us. If you want to watch us on...
Go ahead, Matt.
You guys, did I cut out or something?
No.
Okay. Thank you all guys for joining us. Got the links here. So, if you want to watch our previous VODs, you can either catch us on Twitch at Unearthly Podcast, or you can also watch us as we upload them on YouTube at Unearthly Space Podcast. If you want to catch up on our feed, we are on Twitter at Unearthly Pod, and we're also on Facebook at Unearthly Podcast. And if you are enjoying the show a lot and want to throw an extra buck or so our way, you can also join us on Patreon at An Unearthly Podcast. So that's all for tonight. See you all next time.
Awesome.
Good night.
Good night.